news now in BBC One Wales with Huw Edwards and Darren Jordan. It's 1 o'clock.
Central London is rocked by a series of terrorist attacks. Police speak of many casualties. The terrorists hit without warning at the height of the morning rush hour on the crowded transport system. The underground system was the main target. At least 5 stations were hit. The entire system is at a standstill. Police confirmed at least 2 people dead, but they warned that many have been seriously injured. The Prime Minister said the attacks were barbaric. He's leaving the G8 summit to return to London very shortly.
It's important, however, that those engaged in terrorism realise that our determination to defend our values and our way of life is greater than their determination to cause death and destruction to innocent people.
People are being warned to stay where they are and to avoid travelling until the situation is stabilised. The police are searching for more devices and they've activated the long-rehearsed emergency plan for a terrorist attack on London. Good afternoon to you from Westminster. Central London has been rocked by a series of terrorist attacks. Police say there have been many casualties, there was no warning given, and there is growing speculation this lunchtime that Al-Qaeda was responsible. The blast began shortly before 9 this morning. First came reports of an explosion at Liverpool Street underground station, and then at King's Cross. Edgeware Road station was also hit, as was Aldgate East. A bus was destroyed near Russell Square and Moorgate tube station was also attacked. Scotland Yard said there were at least 7 explosions and so far at least 2 people have been confirmed dead. The entire underground and bus networks are closed. People are advised to stay where they are and not to try to travel. The Prime Minister, who's at the G8 summit in Scotland, is to return to London very shortly. He said that the attacks were barbaric and obviously timed, he said, to coincide with the opening of the G8 summit. Daniel Sanford has the latest for us.
It began soon after 9 o'clock this morning. The capital still basking in the glory of winning the Olympics. The emergency services were called to reports of an explosion at Aldgate Tube, east of the city, the financial heart of Britain. In the confusion, the police weren't ruling out terrorism, but it was thought an electrical fault was more likely.
A large explosion, a flash of flame down the side of the train. Lots of very dense smoke very quickly. Lots of grit and rubbish. It was over very quickly, a matter of seconds. But
Then indications that this was much, much more. Thousands of commuters poured out of underground stations.
Clear away from the area. You move away from the area, please.
Further west at Edgeware Road Tube, reports of another blast as the emergency services put their major incident plan into operation.
I was on the Bakerloo line and that was having delays, so I got off that to get on a different line. And literally, we were on there for like 30 seconds, and then there was just this explosion in the carriage next door, and then it was just all this smoke, and you couldn't breathe, and you know, honestly, this is nothing. Literally, honestly, I feel worse for the people in there than for me completely, because they're much.
We're one of the sides.
Much worse. So.
I was on an outer circle train going from Paddington to Edgware Road on my way to Farringdon, and there was a big flash, a loud bang, lots of smoke, and there was a train on the other track that stopped as well, lots of screaming.
The first sure sign of terrorism was the massive blast that ripped apart a bus. Police are not ruling out a suicide bombing. There'd been no warnings, no intelligence. Irish terrorism is unlikely.
Walking down through to central London, didn't even notice the bus. I just went across the road and then, just blown off my feet and stuff.
The police were now facing the reality. Multiple bombs across the capital, a coordinated, calculated terrorist outrage.
There are many casualties, but as I say, the London emergency plan is working and they are being taken to hospitals. There are just a series of very short messages at the moment that we need to give. The first is to stay where you are. All of London's transport is currently disabled or stopped, whether that's buses or trains. So the safest thing that everybody can do is to stay where they are. Secondly, please do not call the emergency services at the moment unless there is a life-threatening situation.
For years, determined work by the police and the security service MI5 had prevented such an attack, but they'd always warned it was almost inevitable.
It's important, however, that those engaged in terrorism realise that our determination to defend our values and our way of life is greater than their determination to cause death and destruction to innocent people in a desire to impose extremism on the world. Whatever they do, it is our determination that they will never succeed in destroying what we hold dear in this country and in other civilized nations throughout the world. Thank you.
A controlled explosion early this afternoon showed the police operation is only just beginning. The number of people who've died is not yet known. Daniel Sandford, BBC News.
Well, let's get the latest from our reporters in central London. Louisa Baldini is at Russell Square and June Kelly is at Edgware Road. Louisa, to you first, could you update us on what's been going on there later this morning?
Well, we're still waiting to hear numbers of casualties from University College Hospital behind me. This is very close to some of the areas that have been affected, namely King's Cross and also Tavistock Square near Russell Square, which is where one of those buses exploded. Now, I've just come from there. The area is cordoned off, but from where I was standing, you could very clearly see that the top deck of the bus has literally been blasted off, and all that's been left exposed on the top deck are the vertical handrails sticking up into the air. The offices right opposite where the bus exploded, which happened to be the headquarters of the British Medical Association, are literally splattered with blood, and cars have been left in the middle of the road abandoned by their drivers. Now, I also went into a little hotel just around the corner from there to see some reaction. The hotel was crammed with American students huddled around a television trying to find out what was going on, queuing for the payphones to tell loved ones in the United States that they are alive and well, and many of them crying and telling me they are extremely worried about what's happened here today.
Louisa, thank you. Let's go to you, June, at Edgware Road. What do you have to say?
Well, within the past few minutes, the police have confirmed that a number of people have died at Edgware Road. They're not saying how many, but there have been fatalities here. A number of other people have been seriously injured, and then there are the walking wounded. Police say everybody is now out of the tube station. Now, 2 trains were caught up in the explosion here. Witnesses have spoken about glass showering down on them, about being plunged into darkness. People who've got out of this tube station have obviously extremely shaken and have been telling us in the most dramatic detail, but just very, very relieved to be out. But the very bad news from here is that some people have died here.
June Kelly, for that, thank you very much for the moment. Well.